Wow, I ripped an all-nighter, didn't I? Good morning, Mr. Store Manager. Hold on a sec. I move my hand to pull out a watch out of the drawer. Yesterday something occurred to me. Putting aside the monster for a moment, you inhaled so much incense in one breath. It won't simply just go away. Anyway, I'd like to give this a try. I can't read the time. She insists before I even have a chance to explain. What? You guessed right. And time's jumping more and more. So it's true. How'd you find out? Well, that's a long story. But for the same reason I was able to guess that you're coming over today. We should wait until everyone else is here before I explain, though. Her eyes turn around the room. She looks pale. Wait a minute. Could it be possibly that... I spoke to her, but she's... still hesitant. Am I being too idealistic? I rub my hand against my forehead and try to keep myself calm. It's gonna be a lot more difficult without Elise around. What were you hoping to learn from her? I just stumbled upon a few things yesterday that could be potential lifesavers. We need to work as a group piece altogether. I see. Still smiles bitterly. She has tried to contact you? No, once she made a decision, she sticks by it. She won't change her mind. Is there really no hope? I wouldn't say that. Sue looks towards the door. I think she listened to what I said yesterday, realizing how much trouble you caused others along the way by blindly must cause an unbearable guilt. I can wait till she feels. I find it difficult to imagine how a well-behaved, smart girl such as Scaly can relate to that. She'll come around, she murmurs to herself. I know her. I had the right thing coming here, didn't I? A tall figure steps in the light. Elise walks up and stands to Scaly. Elise? After a sudden burst of joy, Scaly's expression suddenly becomes more stern again. Unspoken emotions are looming on both their faces. There's no way around this. Alright, now we're all together, let's get a plan. There's one more thing I need you to confirm. Considering the limited time we have, and the bunch of things that need to be prepared, I decided not to be around the bush. It will come today, is that right? It's as if you understand the situation better than we do. They both threw a quizzical look. All I can do is scratch my head. Well, I wanted to wait for both of you here before I began to explain everything. As for Scarlet, she's already in the know. For what it's worth, you may not be the first victims to have come to contact that monster. Rather, this thing seems to have appeared several times before, always posing a considerable threat. Several times? But why? Searching for longevity or enlightenment. Wanting to escape the confines of the material world. What was the most associated with these things in ancient China? All that sounds very familiar to the concept of Daoism, doesn't it? Two girls look at each other. I pick up the Chronicles of the Crane Temple and add to them. Scaly Silkworm, a name Scaly should be familiar with. That's how ancient priests referred to it. After having been ravaged by the creature, the particular temple described in this book crumbled because of a lack of practitioners. The must take during a great ceremony. Almost everyone attending was slaughtered. Blood and severed limbs littered the room. Most bodies were disfigured and had huge chunks missing their heads. I didn't mean to scare you. It was just a gnarly scene. I stop and slowly take a sip of water. My hands are shaking and I try to hide the best as I can. The details are terrifying, but I think the two girls are scared enough already. If the plan is successful, such tragedy will be averted. If the plan fails... So in short, the monster has appeared before. Wow. Still looks surprised, while Elise is still staring at the ancient book. Even for a girl who's adept at learning, understanding the obscure writing style in the book is no easy task. There seems to be no record of what you said in here. The scene you described. Is it another book or something? Keep looking. Huh? It says afterwards, in the following years, a surviving Crane Temple Daoist tried to raise money in the countryside to recruit new apprentices. but doesn't seem content with the results. It went on for more than 10 years. Lisa opens her eyes, and her face turns strangely pale. Hey, what's wrong? Why are there... What are these numbers? Ellie's reaction to it is even greater than anticipated. She looks closely, shivering before finally calming down again. Until now, the Chronicles of the Crane Temple was just a book that helped me get some back straight. But now, I know that Katie's survival lies in those pages. Fighting nausea that's been choking me since yesterday, I forced myself to go on. This page is dedicated to surviving the Crane Temple Daoist. He's just an ordinary Daoist priest at the time, and his name was unknown. He inherited a secret recipe, passed down to him by his ancestors. They made use of a special elixir to catch a glimpse of what they called the Great Path. This knowledge is passed on to devoted practitioners, so they too can make this experience. The fatal incident in which the creature happened? The fatal incident in which the creature attack happened during a ceremony at which they had all gathered to walk the Great Path. It happened right before it was the unknown monk's turn. So, they really used lilac grass? The scripture matches this experience one would go through when exposed to a very high dose of incense. I doubt there's a way to guarantee one's safety, but they never used that supervision. Those are safer conditions than you had, and yet, things still went wrong. Their elders would teach them a formula beforehand, or a song really. Chanting it collectively seems to have been the only way that the Scaly Silkworm to make the Scaly Silkworm leave them during their spiritual voyage. Her elderly brother was so anxious that he snuck in the temple to get the elixir. And you know what happened then? It started with a stare. The Crane Temple Daoist believed that this monster could be appeased if it hadn't been around for too long. Anyway, back to the story. After the little brother did not arrive at the ceremony on time, a group of disciples decided to go in this room to see what's going on. They were met by a gory sight. A body reduced to a pile of flesh. Then, the Scaly Silkworm emerged from the shadowy corner of the room and went on a killing spree. Starting with the temple's eldest, it massacred one after the other. The Crane Temple Daoist hid beneath the corpse and dared not to move or look. He repeated the chant over and over in a whisper, as fast as he could. After repeating it 3 times, the roar of despair and dread surrounding him finally disappeared. Honestly, I'm not too sure if that chant was really what saved him in the end, or if the fact that he hadn't consumed the elixir yet just didn't make him a target in the creature's eyes. But right now, we have other options. It's a risk we're taking. There are some more useful details here, describing how the creature is extremely fast and good at keeping out of sight, but most importantly, the most important thing is probably the chant. That doesn't sound very realistic. Lil smiles helplessly, but doesn't say anything else. Despite her life-threatening situation, she's still thinking calmly and logically. Good at hiding, moves quickly. At least raises 2 fingers. But where are we gonna find the chant? There's all that. There's all on a page. You really got that from a single page? Well, I take the ancient book from Elise and place it back in your drawer. I don't know if you've ever been interested in witchcraft, but chanting is an important aspect that has been passed down from generation to generation. Some of these tunes are just ordinary ones, meant to sound spooky, while others contain real things, of course. The word real is relative, and none of them can be explained scientifically. Create an appropriate ambience, help people fall into a deep slumber, a trance-like state. It's a little hypnosis, but more powerful. It's a rare skill, but nothing unique. What? As an anthropological researcher, various religions and occult rites rites, and occult rites? I don't know. Whatever. Caught my interest over the years. It's obvious to me that these Daoists had actual skill and knowledge. It's not just foolish trickery. There's a lot of hidden meaning in mysterious text. If you look at those numbers more closely, do you think the arrangement is strange? Only from 1 to 5. Wait a minute. 5. Gong, Shang, Ju, Zai, Yu. The 5 notes on the pentatonic scale. Correct. It's a very smart way of encrypting information. Once you understand it, it becomes obvious that what we're looking for is in plain sight. Those numbers are the chant we need. Whoa. Unbelievable. How'd you do that? Well, let's just say sleep's overrated. Notebook, tape, mobile phone. Good thing the phone didn't break. I placed those 3 things on the table, while flashbacks of my eyes nearly falling out of my head from working all night are haunting me. Okay, that's everything. We've got to do a lot of work before we start. Well, that was quick. After careful consideration, this seems to be the only way. The store manager handed out a list of things that need to be acquired before the sundown. It's mostly pens, paper, and a large piece of white cloth, various paints, and a few other gadgets that you'd find in a craft shop. Scarlett's back by the afternoon as the 2 girls returned from their shopping trip. Scarlett's on the 2nd floor with the store manager, repairing the paint buckets. The 2nd floor once served as a strange room, but now it's been emptied. Several objects and materials have been used to seal off most corners of the room little by little, turning once sharp angles into a spur of service. One corner has been left unsealed. The whole contraption makes the room look like still in construction. The store manager described the procedure and thought the process behind it beforehand. It's to block the Scaly Silkworm and limit the paths it can take. The store manager feels as if he's suddenly gained a lot of insight to the matter. Things are somehow clearer. The chant's been recorded carefully, and the store manager has gathered all the information passed down by the Daoist priest. The Scaly Silkworm always appears in corners of rooms. It also hides there, moving so swiftly it doesn't even touch the ground. One logical solution is to seal off the room to limit its movements while simultaneously being able to keep track of it. So less about store manager, about the contents of the storage room, or better yet, the lack thereof. His reply was short and swift. He had entrusted an acquaintance to find a moving company to sell things off. Now, Scaly and Elise are busy drawing the rune constellation. They are unfamiliar with all the mysterious symbols. For today, all they know about the Daoist priests comes from tales and movies, which said that they carried special swords and yellowed parchment to cast out evil spirits. However, as is so often the case, reality and entertainment couldn't be further apart. There's just one clear cut-out path to the truth, but people tend to get caught up in the concept of rationality and realism. When imagination allows for so much more, people tend to shut things out like that. It's too bad, but ultimately, that's just human nature. Ignorance is bliss. The rune constellation drawn to the store manager's memory is not the same as the one Salil saw on the temple doors during hallucination. The runes have meandering, sinuous lines like crawling worms. However, they're not the most important part of the ceremony. The white cloth is spread out on the ground with a large number of nonsensical patterns painted on it. Circular shapes are discernible, but in all, it still looks chaotic and cluttered. According to the manager, a particular set of runes was once cast in the metal wherever the ceremony was held. During the ceremony, all the Daoist priests under the influence had to stay within the circle of runes. It served as a means of protection against the Scaly Silkworm. Engraved in metal seems a little far-fetched, so this is about as close as one can get to the original thing. There's not a lot of space in the room, but everybody gave it their best. In the end, they all agreed to split up the work between them, allowing Elise and Salil to work on the smaller ruins first. Since there's no telling if any of it will work, the 2 girls tried to place the runes together in as dense a fashion as possible, just in case. The pencil outline was filled in with marker. Luckily, modern ink does not link very easily. From distance, it looks like one big mess, but fortunately, the results are quite satisfactory. The prototype the store manager drew on paper is quite eye-catching, and the girls did a great job. If that can be counted as effective, it's not bad. Looking at the dozens or so circles cascading across the ground, Scylla feels quite empowered. She's thankful that she chose to trust the store manager instead of hiding something from himself. He's gone above and beyond to help her. He even prepared several recordings of the chant with different kinds of equipment. Since the Daos spoke in old dialect, the store manager made alternate versions just in case. Without his and Scarlet's extensive help, the girls would have probably slipped up somewhere along the way and made a deadly mistake, even if they somehow stumbled upon the solution. All in all, it's a mystery how the store manager is so familiar with these kinds of things. So many otherworldly beings and partaking in ancient rituals is hardly part of someone's daily routine, or some leisurely hobby, is it? This goes for Scarlet. Even Celil realized how crazy it sounds from the very beginning, yet Scarlet just went along from day one. Working alongside store manager, raise questions, find answers, as if it was all just another day on the job. Even though all of this must be new to them, they both seemed like seasoned professionals. No matter what they find, they just adjust quickly and come up with new solutions. There's no reason at all for Celil to doubt someone who's helping her so selflessly, but she can't help it. But why exactly? This isn't the right time to think about it. It's nearly 8 p.m. And if things are going to go to plan, the action's about to begin. Celil's first to walk in the room. Are you ready? Lee stands in the middle of the circle and picking up some scattered scrapes. Half a dozen incense sticks are laid out on the ground around her. This seems to be all she had left. And with things about to get serious, it's all or nothing. Then again, following the store manager's guidelines is probably the best way to avoid the worst. Scylla carefully steps inside the ruined circle as well, but unlike Elise, she doesn't sit down. Scylla goes over the plan once more. To put it simply, all you have to do is recreate that incident at the temple, only we'll have to be properly prepared and armed with knowledge that we can use to gain the upper hand. We control the situation this time. I know that you can't walk close to Wilder, nor expect your shoes not to get wet. But we know what went wrong last time. There are two major differences, and we compare this to the failed scenario from back then. First of all, the priest's brother's room, where it all happened, was nowhere prepared. It didn't have any protective runes. Secondly, they didn't repeat any protective chants, which gave the Scaly Silkworm enough time to get comfy in the corners, even if only by accident. They basically created the perfect conditions for it to roam freely. The priest survived in the end, even though he was in the room. That tells us that runes might not be the key. Singing the chant 3 times seems to be part of the ritual that mattered the most. If done accordingly to the Daos method, one recital of the chant takes a minute, so we'll need at least 3 minutes for that part of the ceremony. Of course, we may or may not need more time, and it might even be about the number of repetitions. But we need a rough estimate at least. There's no sugarcoat in the risk. In order for the monster to actually enter this room, one of us needs to use incense again. We still don't know that much about the lilac grass, but we know that inhaling the smoke is an integral part of it. This time, we're under full control over who inhales incense. I did my best to trim the shape of the incense stick for it to burn more slowly. Also, the smoke should sink to the ground more easily. Whoever's our bait stays close to the ground, while another keeps an eye on the overall situation. It should be all done as quickly as possible. The smoke will begin to thicken after all. If both people lose consciousness at the same time, that would mean certain doom. To put it bluntly, lure it out and stay calm. When it emerges, use the things to be prepared to delay it as long as possible. Delay it. Syl looks at the various items around her. They're covered paper of the same color as the floor to camouflage them. Amazingly, how much have they managed to hide from the praying eyes? Using these things to interrupt a sinister monster that slaughters humans for fun is like threading a polar bear with a toothpick. However, these runes copied from the ones found at Craneview Temple might give him additional powers. A human's worst fear is always uncertainty, and that's no exception. Although you're the one who asked for help yesterday, it seemed like you'll be the one protecting me instead. Since she has most experience with incense, Elise volunteered to play the bait. However, yesterday proved to Scaly that even experience doesn't protect you from its dangerous effects. But she had no valid reason to tell Elise not to do it. Elise? Yes. After all this is over, let's sit down and talk, okay? Her phone starts beeping. She tries to get embarrassment with the store manager's lighter in hand. She lights the incense sticks one by one. Scaly frowns at this all too familiar smell. She waves her hands around to get rid of the smoke, which is indeed thinner than usual, meaning that her preparations were effective. If she doesn't deliberately inhale the smoke, it should be possible to stave off the effects a bit longer. Elise reaches for the incense and places it right next to her. Then she lies down sideways on the ground, her hands folded as if in prayer. Now it's up to you, Scaly. Her words already sounded as if she's struggling to speak clearly. Yes, don't worry, Elise. Alright. Scaly gets up and turns on the playback of her phone's recorder. Despite knowing that it's purely psychological, she still takes a deep breath. She knows these are about to be the longest 3 months of her life. It's quiet all around them. Even though the record's playing, the entire room seems to stand still. We will emerge. Elise doesn't know the answer to that. Her chest is heaving a little. Her palms sweaty as Elise unconsciously rolls up the silk thread and loom, only to loosen it up again, over and over. The store manager's hoarse voice gradually melts in the background, as he continues his chanting. The air is heavy. Elise's eyelids are fluttering. This isn't good. But Scaly knows she did everything she could. Huh? A tingling sensation. Despite there being no light in the room, its corners turn even darker. Blacker than the black. I'd say there's light in this room. Whatever. A cloud of smoke rises. Scaly instinctively waves around to disperse it, only realize smoke isn't coming from the instant ground. This strange purple smoke doesn't adhere to the laws of physics. It doesn't even have a source. The air feels like a sponge soaked in ink, letting out smoke every time it's squeezed. Almost as if it were in sediment. Purple smoke condenses to the corner. Then, a crunchy sound, like a torn fabric. Scaly stares at the point where the smoke has gathered and holds her breath. The darkness deforms and warps again, sending a chill through the room. No pupils, no eyelids, no shimmering white in the dark. But an eye's an eye. Scaly recognizes it immediately. She can never forget. It is here. The what? The enigmatic monster, I don't know what that means. The inject monster seems to be adapting to its surroundings. Little by little, it squeezes itself out of the fabric darkness, its angular body spreading out, arcing in the air. This weird, bizarre being conflicts the natural rules of our world. It's composed of entirely very sharp angles, but its surface is glistening with liquid reflections. One section of the body is covered in weird, scattered eyes. The closest thing to what we call a head. This thing is very abnormal from the very core of existence. Scaly is sure of it. Without a warning, a cold, sticky feeling starts to wander up Scaly's ankles. It feels as if melted ice water is being injected into her veins, as if she's becoming weightless, as if she's free-falling. The acid in her stomach's building up, a sickening sensation. The vial of everything she has come to accept, and knows its reality is mercilessly torn away. The last small sense of security she had left vanishes. Her sanity crumbles as her body folds and falls apart within herself. She would like to close her strained eyes, if only to escape the horrified mad glaze, but she eventually swallows the fear and tries maintaining eye contact. Sharp, bone-like appendages are protruding from its body, their razor-sharp tips giving the impression that they could rip time and space apart itself. That must be a kind of claw, Scylla quietly thinks to herself. She can't see anything that resembles an ear, but God knows how this thing functions. Its physics-defying body is strangely twisting and arranging every couple of seconds. Upon closer inspection, she realized different shapes are not directly connected to one another. They seem to be loosely hanging in space, ignoring all the constraints of common sense. She readies herself for what's next. Scylla pulls a thin thread, and the sight tearing of adhesive tape can be heard further away. The remains of the corners of the room have also covered with tape, in which maintains a subtle tension. Once unfastened, creates a corner in the room. With a bit of luck, it's possible to cut off the creature's entrance. However, it doesn't exactly work as planned. The appendages on the morphing monsters easily cut through everything in its path. The parts of it are already successfully merged and cannot be removed by simply erasing the corners. With a disturbing crackling sound, like tendons snapping. Why? The thing raises its head and looks around. It takes about a second to spot its target. A small puddle of liquid, much like water, is forming on the ground from Scylla. The creature's body has splattered into a pulpy, bony puddle, as if thrown against the window from full force. For a short moment, it reminds Scylla of a scene that had a terrible car accident. Something seems to have viciously ripped apart the air. Despite the fact that she didn't inhale, her youngsters start bulging and filling up like a balloon. She can feel a faint heart rising from beneath her. Smoke is rising from the ground. The ruins are showing sign of damage after just one attack. This is going to delay for a little bit, Scylla thinks to herself. The ruins are just a small help. They cannot be relied on for protection. Weird crunching and clicking noises are coming from the monster's unnatural body as it retreats back in the dark corner. The thing is floating through the air like some otherworldly god. The corners of the room begin to embrace his kingdom. Scylla is in a drenched cold sweat. Nobody really knows what the original ruins were for, with no practical knowledge about them. This right here is the only way to see how they actually work. The store manager only explained it vaguely before. Scylla can't blame him. Even if she understood the principle herself, it would still be difficult to explain to someone else. The nightmarish creature is behaving as if it's not bound to this world at all, and it's free to traverse through space. The space covered in ruins being this little exemption. It's possible to keep track of movements or understand them. Its body defies common sense, twisting and morphing into more disturbing ways. Its action and movements are ferociously rapid, and its piercing eyes render any attempts at hiding it from it futile. Does any of it really have an effect? If anything, it looks like the monster could be avoiding that spot to be a conscious decision. While Scylla's also thought the monster attempts second strike. This time, the ground shakes under the vicious attack. Various items are violently thrown in the air, reduced to nothing but dust. Scylla lowers the thread in her hands. It's not surprising that Deus fell victim to this ferocious beast. This isn't a fight that can be solved by brute force, even if you have the proper weapons at hand. If anything, rash and violent decisions would only make things worse. The ruins seem to be keeping up for now, despite showing the first signs of crackling under pressure. They've already surpassed everyone's expectations, but there's still more to be done. Scylla holds her breath and kneels again. Then she starts drawing something on the ground. At start attack. No thinking, just drawing. The moment the pen touches the ground, as if it's a mind of its own. Still, it quickly fills in the parts of the ruins that have disintegrated. The monster is now rampaging outside the ruined circle, frustrated. The store's manager's plans to ambush it did not seem to work out as planned, but it's too late to worry about that. There's a faint ring in the distance. 1 minute has passed. Oh god. A sudden impact to the side. Another one. It's holding up so far. Despite the heat, the marker is drawing to the ruins of the ground. The monster thrashes around, smashing against the barrier, making it hard for Sil to keep up. There are 12 sets of overlapping ruin patterns to the ground. Each impact damages about 2 or 3 of them. The process differs depending on the pattern, but Sil manages to tear 1 or 2 each time. Luckily, the ink is withstanding the inexplicable heat. Although the ancient pioneers of the ceremony were more professional than everyone here combined, modern science and technology do have their advantages. To avoid hailing too much incense, Sil quickly gets up, gasping for air. It's almost like coming up for air when swimming, but through supernatural smoke instead of water. Nobody expected this to turn into a deadly game of tug-of-war, but there's still hope. Now that they know how it works, they're determined to stand their ground and finish this. What? This sweeps over Sil, as if she's suffering from the extreme vertigo. Her vision goes dark, she falls to her knees, and tries to break her fall by reaching towards the ground. This is dangerous. If she falls and lands outside the safe space, her left hand seems digging the ground. Beyond the boundary. She instinctively tracks her left hand and pushes herself back to the ground immediately. There's a gate. Oh, this is probably the bridge exploded then. There's a gaping hole in the center of her palm. White bones and pulsating veins are clearly visible. There's no pain, no bleeding, and whatever fluid is dripping out of the wound disappears into thin air. The malicious creature flies to one side in annoyance, righting itself again. As Sil realizes what's happening, her legs turn weak. What kind of fight was that? Sil is so confused right now that she can't think clearly. She tries to regain her footing, but she stumbles and kicks the mark away from her. With a sharp, abrupt hiss, the creature rushes towards it, knowing it to be the girl's only hope. It's to match the creature's attack. The marker breaks apart. Black ink splotches across her like blood. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Sil screams, but dares not to reach out again. Lisa's trying beside her. Her clothes torn from many attacks. Sil glances over to check on her, but fortunately she's still unharmed. The monster twists his head and looks back at Sil. Its squarely appendages are ready for an attack, but it then stops in midair. And its so many teeth scatter into countless strands of blue silk. Now it looks like a jellyfish pressed flat against the wall of the glass tank. It's playing around, trying to provoke its prey. Meanwhile, the ruins on the floor are frothing, providing a pungent smell after having blocked so many creatures' attacks. What should they do? They've lost the marker and there's only one pencil. A pair of scissors and some paper cutters left in the ruined circle. The pencil is used for rough sketching, but repairing the room patterns with it might be nearly impossible. It's nowhere near as effective as any marker. However, the ruins won't hold much longer, if nothing's done about it. May your mind's playing tricks on her, but Sil can hear a faint flailing from somewhere. The most important thing now is time. Stay calm. Stay calm. With each attack, the ruins are damaged even more. The ink boils under parts of the ruins simply evaporate in thin air. There's nothing here that Sil could use to quickly replace the evaporated ink. Even if there was, it seems like the ruins would remain fragile either way. But what about something other than a drawing? Sil is surprised at her own rationality. Her breath is calm, and her thoughts are clear. There might be another way to make the runes more sustainable. A whole set of runes could be engraved on the surface. It might work. Even if the ink ultimately disappears, the engraved parts can at least last. The hardcore is an option. That much is clear, since we tested it this afternoon. All she has is a pencil and a knife. So, the pencil then? Although nowhere near as large a radius of the rings on the ground, at least the pencil has a cylindrical shape. By drawing the runes much closer together and compressing the whole pattern, they could indeed be carved to the pencil. Even though the pencil could not be stood upright on the ground, the scaly silkworm can't reach the space near the runes, so they might just buy everyone some time. That's it! The ground is shaking, and the creature seems to have found its rhythm. The pause between attacks are getting shorter. The self-imposed cage seems to be grumbling. The phone starts beeping once again. The second minute has passed, and about half of the prepared defenses have already been destroyed. There's no way Jiro's been lost. Soon, there won't be enough space for one person to lie down in it. Salil helps Elise into a sitting position while she leans against her body for support. Throwing the notebook aside, picks the pencil into the knife, and starts engraving as fast as she possibly can. There must be not any straight lines, no corners, and most importantly, no mistakes. Salil's never under so much pressure. The clock is ticking. She barely even looks at what she's doing whilst she moves the knife across the pencil. A piece of wood less thick than her pinky finger. No matter how driven motivated, everybody else probably wouldn't have been able to do this. Thanks to Salil's artistic skills, though, she has no fingers. She's making it count. So what's going on? Elise suddenly frowns and starts to whisper. Salil responds casually, but doesn't get any more answers from Elise. It's probably just a nightmare, induced by hallucinations. Or Elise. No matter how hard she tries to fight it, the instance around her is still eating away at Salil's self-control. Something is floating in the corners of her eye. It kind of looks like a row of British guards in bearskin hats. Hallucinations. Still can't remember that right now. An unrelenting shockwave begins to bring her back to reality. Another one of those, and the whole room might start coming on top of everyone. Salil's even more determined now. The beast is circling its prey, occasionally picking up whatever object's close to it and tearing them to pieces. Looks like even the supernatural creatures get frustrated sometimes. Salil adjusts position to make more room for Elise. The safe zone has shrunk once again. Some protective runes have been broken by now. Salil can already feel the monster's vile beneath her face. It extends in sharp appendages again, stretching its bony teeth around Salil in an effort to demonstrate its impending victory. It was my decision. She had nothing to do. Elise is still immersed in hallucinations. She twists and turns her body uneasily. In spite of the situation, Salil manages to squeeze out a bitter smile. It seems like all trouble started in this moment since she joined the art club. Although she ignored the provocations back then, Scaly can never forget how sad and scared she'd been. Without Lisa's help, she wouldn't have been able to make it through the bullying and harassment. She still remembers the day Elise stood up for her for the first time. It was a tense moment. What Elise did will always mean a lot to her. Who would have thought that the moment would create such a close friendship? And who would have thought that the friendship would cause so much pain? Salil finishes engraving the last of the tears in her eyes. A loud, unpleasant sound fills the room. This time, the monster seems determined. All of a sudden, thousands of whirling tentacles extend right to Salil's face. Salil begins to panic, and the creature's bizarre morphing. She takes a deep breath, forgetting about all the insects around her. However, something else manages to react even faster. Stop it! Although she is still hasn't fully recovered, and yet she's still staying on her feet, Elise stands up. She steps directly in front of Salil to shield her, as the last line of defense. This isn't how Salil pictured things turning out. Elise? Elise ignores Scylla shouts and stays where she is, almost as if she's in a trance. No matter what, today is her birthday. Watch out! A large shadow pounces on the darkness of the force. A burst of wind blows Scylla's hair out of her face. She feels sound impact, but there's no sound at all. It hurts! Hey, this is the title screen of the game. Nice. Pain shouts through her arms like lightning. Cell bones seem to be cracked. Her shoulders making a crunchy sound every time she moves, but she tries to ignore it. Even the slight pushes make her fall to her knees right now. It looks as if Celil's improvised rune pencil saved both their lives. A small thing would provide nearly as effective as large runes, and survive an all-out attack, at least this once. Why did you... With herself, Syl takes a look at Elise, who's struggling to get back up from the ground. She's overcome with emotion. Elise, why did... I don't know what to say. After many attacks, Syl feels as if she can follow things. Thought process by now. Alright. Although it's still attacking furiously, Syl can sense exhaustion, even from a creature like that at its limits. The chain in the background is nearly over. The third minute's almost up. What's happens, the creature might be soothed by the mysterious tone, just like it was in the past. But the truth. Syl's on defense tightly. There's a radiant, blinding burst of light. Staring directly into its eyes makes its actions a little more predictable, however. Knowing what's going to come next, you give them a fighting chance. Not today, Mr. Monster! Syl mummers to herself as she's shaking her bloody arm from her cuts. I know what I need to do now. This time attacking from left, just as Syl thought. The monster is cunning and is targeting the injured Elise instead. Knowing where the next attack might come from gives Syl the advantage, however small it might be. The monster twists and turns, snapping through the air like a whip. She's beginning to feel the blood loss in her arm, but Syl clenches her teeth and starts at the whimpering creature, using light for the option in her hand. Pencil is boiling hot. It feels as if she's gripping a scorching iron. The stench of burning skin tears up to her nose. That doesn't matter now. The creature still changed strategy. It floats through the air, tearing away its own pieces. Tearing away pieces of its own body with sharp, pointed claws. Pulpy, green liquid whips over Syl's head. Syl raises her left arm in an attempt to get the liquid from her and Elise, but it's too much, and her friends just won't block it. The sticky green pus drips onto her skin and immediately creeps along it like a living thing. Burns through Syl's soft skin, rushing through her veins, boiling her blood. The entire left side of her body seems to be burning up and melting away, while the right side is strangely frigid and cold. It feels as if somebody's hammering nails straight to her heart. But she wants to live. She has to. Can't be for nothing. Hey, it's almost time, right? If you don't hurry, I'm gonna run. There's a sound as a bizarre mountain of angles seems a sharp again. Escape again. A accompanied by the extremely sharp howling sound, the monster's body strikes out once more. Still extends his left arm. The toxic fluid has already burnt her skin, so offering up more won't make much of a difference. Intentionally letting the beast come closer is a lot harder than she thought. Scylla's left arm is completely numb, and the whirlwind of lashing tentacles nearly reaches the tip of her nose. At a critical moment, Scylla bites down the pencil's hard. Although the shock of the impact almost breaks her neck, and her teeth turn dull pink, she remains on her feet. More than a dozen pairs of eyes are directly facing her. Would she feel better without those things? Scylla does her best to keep her brain processed with pain while staying through her body. Fine. Whatever happens, happens. Maybe the incense is showing effect, but her expression is becoming less tense as she smiles. With her hand covered in blood oozing from her cut arm, she quickly draws a circle mark on the monster's forehead. Through starts spinning. Where's the whole world? Orange sensation is spreading through her lower abdomen, as if she's been punched in the gut. Scylla falls to the ground and is unable to muster up any strength to get back up. She turns her head to the side, waiting to see if Lisa's okay. No longer strong. Can't. No. Who's Lisa talking to? There's no ringing sound. At last, the darkness swallows her whole. A warm hint gently sweeps over her body like a soft wave. How long has it been? Her vision is blurry, and she's unable to process what happened. What she does know, however, is that right now, there's nothing to worry about. Or, not that this is weird, the unsettling feeling in the back of her mind has fully gone away. Does she realize how long the creature's has haunted her? Nestled in her thoughts. Just thinking about it is enough to give her a headache. What exactly did she do last night? Scylla's unsure whether she even wants to remember. A cold, bone-crushing pain still lingers in her chest. But she doesn't feel as if she's being watched any longer. That should be considered success, no matter the circumstances. The floor is a mess, covered in sharp scratches, and walls speckled with ink, and other liquids as if a bomb went off inside this room. Scylla's lying on her neck, covered with a thick fleece blanket. Tears are shimmering in her eyes. They really taste like salt, she thinks to herself as a single tear rolls down over her lips. It looks very improvised, but her wounds are covered with gauze and bandages. The strong smell of disinfectant hangs in the air. She looks around and spots a note next to her. It says, "Good morning. I'm waiting for you downstairs." The paper seems to have been ripped out of the store manager's notebook. It's already starting to turn a little yellow. Even though he's taking care of bookstore, his handwriting is atrocious. Scylla almost feels bad to think about that way, but it's true. She quickly discards the thought. She owes him so much. And without his help, at least and her probably wouldn't have lived to see the sun come today. Asking somebody favors him, ruining the whole room. Scylla feels terrible about it. She makes a mental note and apologizes to him for her behavior at the earliest opportunity. Her left wrist and shoulder are swollen. Scylla moves around to make sure she hasn't dislocated anything, and to make sure it doesn't still hurt. The minutes against a creature like that, she can count herself lucky if this is the full extent of her injuries. What is she going to tell her father when she goes back home today? Scylla's a little worried, but she's feeling a lot calmer already. Scylla decides to let a hard-earned pace and quiet sink in for a little longer. To be completely honest, I didn't know what to do. Oh? Well, no pain, no bleeding, it just doesn't seem right, but I suggest we wait to see how long things turn out. It'd be weird to go to a doctor with all these kind of symptoms and not be able to properly explain how he got them in the first place. The creature pierced a large hole through Scylla's left hand, although the entire back of her palm is laid bare. She still moved her hand as if the bone wasn't touched at all. The way she's able to make a fist and almost fit 3 fingers through the hole is truly unsettling. For now, let's cover up bandages, and if anybody asks, say an accident. You'll have to watch out for infection. I know a guy who might be able to... I know a guy who might know a way to get to heal properly. Looks like I came up with something. Oh, and I'm sorry. Sorry for how things escalated. And how far you had to push yourselves. And about your hand. Maybe that strange guy delivers the next batch of books, I can ask him. Anyway, it'd be best if you let yourself heal, regain strength. Do you want to stay here, or do you want to go back to the school? I don't feel too comfortable about you showing up there all day. Well, I actually turned my phone off yesterday and I just realized. I received so many messages it's about to burst. Elise, are you really okay? Let me just make up an excuse. I think we should go back and explain to the teachers. Well, yeah, that's one possibility. Sounds fine to me. Just promise not to cause any more trouble. Not for yourself, not for others, but for your own sake. Then... we'll hurry there now and come back later to make amends. I promise. Yeah. We'll do that. I'm really sorry. Alright, just give me enough time to have a good cry while I think about who to call to help me clean up this mess. And just like that, the 2 students hurry out of the bookstore and head to school. In the end, they're still with kids. As much as Scarlet hates annoying children, Slill and Elise clearly don't fall into that category. They still have a long road ahead of them, and if they start along the way, it's going to help them out whenever possible. Just a few days were enough to draw me out of quite the safe life I've been leading. Who could have known a single conversation would lead to such an adventure? And there's a whole mess upstairs to take care of somehow. Just thinking about it makes my head throb. Staying here is, shall we say, necessity. So, I might as well keep the place tidy. So it looks like things have been resolved. What do you mean by resolved? We still don't have a cure for the wound. You can't just let Slill run around with a hole in her hand for the rest of her life. Wait, when did you get here? You know how long he's been standing already. He bows his head in my direction, and a pile of books in his arms. A pleasant afternoon to you. If you talk about a wound, let's just give up on it. These things are simply passing through our dimension, and time itself could not comprehend the wounds they cause. However, since they're only travelers, I will forget them eventually. At that point, you become more difficult to track of them. You seem to know a lot about them. How peculiar. An easy feeling spreads to my chest. Just a moment ago, I was prepared to come up with a clever way of getting information out of them. But now I don't feel like it anymore. Thanks to an old book you gave me, the girls weren't torn to pieces by that thing called the Scaly worm. So, I should thank you for that. Please don't give me that look. I'd like to assist you in person, but you're well aware that I'm not allowed to go beyond this floor. He's right. Even the stairs are off limits to him. Even if he gave it everything he's got, he could only take one step before being pushed back by an invisible force. It was only after the accident that I found that his legs had been replaced with a pair of prosthetics. What happened to Hermitage back then? Way back then, I can't even imagine. Nowadays, the building resembles a cursed city. No one can leave, no one can enter. You may not realize it, but your instincts have always been sharp. A wise decision not to get involved. He brushes some dust off his hat. How so? The Scaly Silkworm appears in this dimension by entering and exiting from a certain perspective. And you'll find that everyone has one. Consider, for example, the eyes. Learned scholars died tragically at home. Kings were mysteriously murdered in their castles. Witchcraft researchers suddenly perished, all of them torn and cut. Their henchmen and assistants didn't always share that luxury. Many were left with a large, gaping hole in their face. So can enter our dimension through a human face? I'm afraid, it's a legitimate valid theory. Moreover, it has been documented that all sorts of anomalies and deformities have developed on these victims over time. It's more than enough to drive them mad and ultimately kill them. They call it the Devil's Whisper. An apt name for the condition, if you ask me. Shiver goes down my spine as I listen to these stories. The Crane Temple Daoist described the Silkworm as a storm of unpredictable shapes. Its destructive urges lead me to believe that's primitive. However, it's actually a highly intelligent being. You can't afford to be reckless against an enemy who doesn't even adhere to our concept of life and death. Things look really grim, and it's all a gamble. But my faith in the runes was well placed. Our ancestors have treated us well. Thanks to runes, the girls' lives are saved. Otherwise, they would have met the same cruel fate as the priests back then. Runes? What are you referring to? Protective runes carved in the floor. The priests seem to have relied on them to ward off the Silkworm during the ceremony. Although they weren't that durable, they still proved most useful. Is that so? How intriguing. That seemed new to me. There haven't been any examples of symbols being useful against the Silkworms in the past. Well, this is roughly what it looks like. We overlapped this pattern a dozen times, just to be safe. I take a tattered draft of the runes from the table and hand it to him. He seems quite interested, gazing at the pattern intently as if he wanted to burn the paper. But then he frowns. If I remember correctly, this is just a type of common hexagram often used in Southern Daoism. A very messy, distorted even. It's harmless, and doesn't carry any power as far as I can tell. Are you sure it really had an effect on the Silkworm? Well, to be honest, I don't really know. It did save the two girls, and judging by the havoc caused upstairs, I don't think they had enough strength left to make up a lie like that. In any case, it's all quite dangerous, almost like a tug-of-war without a rope. The Silkworm destroyed all protective precautions I put in place. Without them, Salil even had a chance of surviving for 3 minutes. Perhaps overreacting, since no way is proven otherwise. It may be possible the hexagram is effective against Silkworm. Under what circumstances would you usually use this hexagram? Well, as various applications. Since there's no real function, it only exists as a symbol. It's often found on various decorative items, not as distorted as in your drawing, though. That explains it, I guess. What's the matter? It's nothing. I'm starting to believe that I've just been really lucky lately. Luck is never more than a prerequisite, and no amount of luck would help if you didn't put in the effort. Compliments don't do me any good. How did I realize that? I just want you to be fully aware of how much of a difference you can make. He checks the bookshelves one by one, looking satisfied. Accurate categorization, no missing volumes. You're born to do this. Why are you helping me? You mean these books? Forget about talking to me for a moment. From the beginning, you seem to know what's going on with Salil. If that was really the case, wouldn't it have been better to be straightforward about it? We eat, drink, and walk according to what we're taught. But most of the world is foolish and lacks self-reflection, so you should be careful. The liver bows his head as quietly as he quietly recits the line. Sounds like some kind of lesson. It's the motto of a group that shady individuals use to keep themselves motivated, even though its origin is elusive nowadays. They are still more careful than anyone else, even to this day. Unfortunately, I can't distance myself from a variety of reasons. His tone is bitter and seems to be hiding a lot of regret. When I was younger, I followed them blindly, often in situations that I shouldn't have been a part of. If it hadn't been for a coincidence, I might still be in the dark about that. I never seemed to call myself innocent, but that doesn't mean I was happy to stand by and watch them do what they did. Is that why you're hoping to help? The deliverer nods silently. Well, I'll be honest, even if helping Salil brings you some kind of benefit that I don't know about, I wouldn't bother telling you about anything else unless it's out of the ordinary. You're my landlord, after all. However, in an environment like this, I can hardly guarantee good quality work. This time around, luck was the only thing that made a success. Don't you have a better alternative than that? You seem to be arresting my abilities. Every single brick and tile here is priceless to me, and you sleep peacefully upstairs every night. Well, I can't even take a look inside. Is that place... Alright. Is this place that precious to you? He gives me a sad look and speaks in a serious tone. It is my home. It is the only place I find peace and stability. However, this is why I'm not able to place you here with such confidence. For me, this is the last chance that God has given me. You seem to be having a hard time with it, though. As long as it's also my expectations, the pain I'm feeling is just part of the process. That statement already sounds much more like itself again. I stretch my hands out and drill a cigarette in the ashtray. So what else can I do for you? When the time comes, you'll know. All you have to do is think. Yeah, all you have to do is do what you think is right. He picks the briefcase and turns around to leave the store. Until then, just hang in there. Hang in there? I look down at the notebook at my desk. In just a few days, it's already been filled with a multitude of notes and memos. Once they've been turned on, some switches are difficult to turn off again. We can at least a break right now. Elise? Elise? What? Sorry, I was distracted. Did you see anything strange? No, I was just curious. I saw someone walk by who looked familiar. Huh? You mean you saw someone you knew at the bookstore? I don't think anyone from school would hang out there. Maybe the clothes are just similar, but not particularly unusual to be wearing a trench coat in this weather. Something felt strange. Really? I didn't even notice. Never mind. It's too late to do anything about it now. The girl nods and continues toward the situation. It's certainly unusual, but the weather has been good for the last few days. There are many things she'd like to say, but the words are stuck in her throat, and she can't get them out. Elise can't help but think about how messy things have turned out. She feels as if everything's her fault, but she's still overwhelmed by the recent events. She has the courage to accept any punishment, but it never came. It's as if she herself has become the person she used to hate so much, which makes her feel incredibly hollow inside. She sees the way Scaly is walking next to her. Light on her feet and unburdened, she feels somewhat relieved. But she's also selfishly filled with despair. She has to face it. She can no longer choose to avoid it. Scaly, as it turns out, I'm not just gonna forgive you like that. Is this really what it's gonna be like? I don't want you to misunderstand, so I thought I'd make myself clear. I have no intention of forgetting you just like that. Scaly stands in front of Elise, feet firmly planted on the ground, no sign of doubt in her face. The autumn breeze gently lifts up her slightly disheveled hair, revealing a few red marks in her face. For the first time, Elise is uncomfortable and looking into Scaly's clear and determined eyes. He's the other way around. Honestly, it's okay. It's not over yet. We're still up here once in the art club. That sentence shakes her up more than anything else. It's not like... You acquired a lot of lilac grass in the past, right? I can't just ignore the fact that you've used something so dangerous. Scaly tries to smile as the sun shines down on her, spreading warmth across the entire road. I can forgive you. It's just one more decision I have to make. And as things are, it's not that hard for me anymore. But like the store manager said, forgiveness is never the end of the matter. There's a difference between forgiving someone who ran away. Forgiveness alone proves nothing. Just like run away doesn't either. Trying to make a change is the only thing that makes a difference in the world. Look, what would people think if we just made up pretending that nothing happened? Lisa's paid a high price to prove herself, but it's true that there's more than one person involved in the situation. But the seeds were planted don't just disappear. I'm not responsible for this. I shouldn't be the one to say this, but Salil, you really do care about the others too much. I don't think so. If mistakes are made, it's our duty to solve them, even if we weren't responsible for them. I don't plan on shouldering anyone else's burden. I listen to apologies, and I'll stay responsible, always. Same goes for you, Elise. If we're still friends, then come with me and talk about our classmates. Salil seems to have prepared the speech a long time ago. Elise's vision becomes a little blurry as she watches her friend talk so seriously. So Elise... Hey, are you alright? Yeah. I'm obviously... Elise can no longer hold back her emotions. The sorrow, the pain, the regret. They never went away after all. And now that they're all bursting out with their tears, I can't even forgive myself for some things, but you can. Stop it! It has nothing to do with her. But it's her birthday. I remember someone saying something like that last night, and I'm sure as hell it wasn't me. At the school, only one person knows what birthday is. So, what exactly did you see? And who exactly did you say that to? Slowly curves her cheeks, looking embarrassed. You want to change, right? And I still have many things to learn. I want to continue this journey. With you. Elise doesn't hear the whole sentence. The only thing she can hear is the sound of her own sobbing. Salil gently hugs Elise, trying her best to share her warmth. Now, we all have the time in this world to correct our mistakes, to make things right. If patience really is the key, we'll just have to be patient a little longer. If this is how we can make friends, that's motivation enough. Elise tries to open her eyes, but all she can see is Salil's bright smile right in front of her. Besides, I owe you an apology too. After all, I still don't know everyone's names yet. Even with tears in her eyes, Ellie smiles, and the sun, along with Salil's embrace, fills her heart with warmth. Come on, we still need to do a lot of things. We still have a lot of things to get done. This young girl used to have one problem. She suffered from nightmares, even during the day. Now, she's finally found her true redemption. One day in the Cinnabar. We've completed the chapter. I don't believe it. Alright. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode of Hermitage here. Guess we'll do chapter 2 in the next one. Until then, peace.